Right, so we're using cork as the edge insulation that runs down there. You can see they're just being laid in place there. I really like using cork as a natural material. It's an extraordinary product, really. You harvest the cork bark after about 12 years of growth. That bark is stripped off, it's then seasoned, and it's then ground up, and the fine particles get drawn off and they go into a furnace. Then the coarse particles go into a vat, and that vat is heated with the energy from the waste cork. So 93% of the energy used to cook up the cork is from waste material. That then expands the cork and releases natural lignins and binders within the cork itself. That then goes into a press and it gets compressed into a block. And this is insulation cork, so it's compressed to a certain density. That's then left to cool and cure, and it comes out as that board. Yeah, so if you've got an uneven wall, obviously we can't get the cork sitting flush against the wall. So if this was a brick building, you've got nice flat walls, and it's literally just a case of pushing it up against the wall, and it creates its own background to rest on. In this situation where we've got all sorts of movement, because obviously this is a rubble stone wall, just setting this into a bed and then packing out behind it. So this will all be foaming up at the same time as the levelling material underneath the screening boards is going off as well. So when you come back to do it, that will be nice and firm. In this situation, we're actually going to be putting work surfaces, workbenches up against the wall. So this is going to be covered, but if this is a domestic floor and the screed is going to be exposed, then you're obviously going to have this popping up within the floor itself. So sometimes your insulation, if you're putting insulation on the internal of the wall, then that can cover it, but you need to consider that detail, what happens at that point, if you're going to see the cork. Obviously the main function of this cork in this situation is to make sure that that heat doesn't drift out onto the wall. So this is really particularly important on external walls, so you're trying to limit, restrict, stop that heat from drifting out. Internal walls, it's not necessary to have the insulation up against an internal wall. There's nothing wrong with doing that if you want to, but generally not needed. The other thing to mention is obviously when you're going about this, you can see there are lots of different things going on with heating pipes and screening boards and cork insulation. Just make sure you've got all those components for that job to hand so that you're ready to lay the wall in place. So you can see on this wall, the cork is actually sitting up a little bit, but it's still being placed in the same way, a bit of haunching on the front, we'll pack out the back, and when the slab's on, we can just run a saw cut over the cork, level with the floor to finish it flush with the top of the slab.